Hi guys, Techman here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Jackery's biggest and most versatile power station, the Jackery Explorer 2000 Pro. Well, we did see glimpses of what seems to be the 3000 Pro at CES 2023, but that's still a concept unit and not available at retail. So let's not digress too much and stick with the 2000 Pro.
That is a great idea.
Now Jackery have added some much needed features in this unit which we haven't previously seen in Jackery power stations. They have also upgraded some of the existing features that their power stations have, so they can catch up with the rest of the pack. And to be honest, it was about time because the competitors were running away, leaving Jackery behind. Now there's no doubt Jackery make great power stations, but they have been guilty of overlooking some modern features which are essential in today's technology driven world. There's still some features missing from the 2000 Pro which I'd like to see, and we'll go over them towards the end of this review. Now the 2000 Pro retails at almost £2,000 in the UK, and if you choose to purchase one of their bundled packages, you could be splashing out something to the region of £5,700. That's a lot of money if I'm being honest, and we'll come back to the price point a little later. Now I've had the opportunity to cycle the 2000 Pro for 2 entire months, and I've got to say, this is an exceptional unit. I've thoroughly enjoyed using it every single day for the past 2 to 3 months. It's handled everything I've thrown at it like a breeze. As always, I've noted down my observations. So what's under the hood and what have I observed so far? Well, time to find out.
It's go time.
Inside the box you get the unit itself, an AC charging cable, a car charger cable. As expected, these are quality cables. Jackery really do make an effort when it comes to accessories and cables. And I really like the orange accent, it really complements the unit well. The cables come in a neat carry case. Just be careful when removing the cables, because Jackery has thrown in a couple of DC 7909 to DC 8020 adapters. These adapters allow you to use Jackery's older 100 Solar Saga panels with the 2000 Pro. It also makes it easier to use older cables like Jackery's car charger cable that comes with the Explorer 500 or the Explorer 1000. I would advise keeping them safe if you have no immediate use for them. It's also good to see Jackery offer a 5-year warranty with the 2000 Pro if you register unit on Jackery's website. Now you can see Jackery has remained true to its essence. The 2000 Pro sports Jackery's trademark orange and great accent. The entire outer shell is made from ABS plastic and has the same solid and robust feel we see in its predecessors. What you'll notice right off the bat is that Jackery has listened to its customers by ditching the rigid carry handle and finally incorporated a folding handle. It's a sturdy handle too, strong enough to live to its purpose. Remember, this unit is meant to be portable, not so much so ultra portable, but you should be able to lift it with one hand and take it with you on a road trip without breaking sweat. The soft closing mechanism works exceptionally well. It may sound simple, but it's a much needed improvement that goes a long way in terms of transportation. Fans are installed on each end to keep the internal components cool and prolong the life of the unit. As for the dimensions, I've popped them at the bottom of the screen. The weight is also manageable. At 19.5 kilos or 43 pounds, the 2000 Pro is relatively lighter than other units in the 2000 Watt-hour circa category. This goes to explain why the 2000 Pro can be lifted with one hand, and also why it is a portable unit. Other units in the same category are not designed to be portable power stations per se. Now, much of the weight difference is due to the battery chemistry installed in this unit. Jackery continue to employ lithium NMC cells rather than the more stable but heavier lithium iron phosphate cells. Now, I'm not going to go into the pros and the cons of lithium NMC cells in this review. I previously mentioned why I think Jackery have taken the decision to stick with lithium NMC cells, and I'll pop a link to that video in the description, so please do check out that video if you haven't already. Now Jackery rates these cells at 1000 cycles to 80% depth of discharge, so it's not too far off lithium iron phosphate cells. And if you're not going to be cycling this unit every single day and you take care of the unit, it will last you a long time. And as a friend pointed out to me, if you cycle the unit once a week, it will be 19 years before you cycle this unit 1000 times. And you will still have 80% of its capacity at that stage. So you won't be forced to throw the unit away or upgrade if you don't want to. In terms of ports, Jackery has placed all its output ports to the front of the unit, and for the first time we see input ports positioned on the back of the power station. We'll come back to these input ports in just a moment. Now Jackery have done a neat job in spacing out all these ports. On the left there are a couple of 18-watt quick charge USB-A ports. These can be used to charge your USB gadgets and devices. Beneath the USB-A ports, there are two USB-C ports. And what's good to see is that both ports support 100 watt power delivery simultaneously. Now I don't own a device, or two devices for that matter, that require 100 watts USB-C power, but I did manage to charge two 60 watt devices simultaneously, and you can see I was getting a combined output of 124 watts from the unit. There's also a 12 volt car signal lighter port rated at 10 amps. But sadly there are no 12 volt DC 5521 ports. Now we see these type of ports on other power stations. Now it's not a deal breaker for me, but I am a fan of these DC ports. They add good value to the power station and can be handy if you have multiple 12 volt appliances or devices to power. Now in the UK the 2000 Pro has two AC sockets at the front of the unit. You may get 3 outlets in your unit, and that all depends on the size of the AC sockets in your geographical location. Now Jackery do throw in a robust 2200 watt inverter with a peak of 4400 watts. And while that is a lot of power, this is something we'd expect with a unit of this size and at this price point. Last but not least, there's another cap here which reveals a multi-mode flashlight. And you guessed it, tapping the light switch cycles it through its 3 modes, which is low, high and SOS. And on the note of switches, one thing I forgot to mention is that each of the DC and AC sockets have their own dedicated switches. Now in the middle of all these ports is an upgraded LCD screen, and it's much better than the Explorer 500 and 1000 LCD displays. It's bright, it's clearly visible, and the orange accent is quite clever. The improved screen now has a circular gauge surrounding the state of charge indicator. Input and output watts are displayed in real time on either side of the gauge. It's perhaps not as detailed as other power stations. There's no demographics or settings menu, like what we see with the AC200P or AC200 Max from Bluetti, but it still gives you the basic information you need and does its job pretty well. Now the display turns off automatically after 30 seconds to conserve power, and to set it to always be on, simply double tap the display button. This can be handy if you're charging or discharging the unit and need to keep an eye on the state of charge indicator. And if you want to turn the always on mode off again, just tap the display button once. One thing to note here is that when you set the screen to always be on, it will automatically turn off after 2 hours of inactivity. Now the flat top base is great for portability, and it can also act as a surface for your gadgets and small appliances.
Oops.
But there's something fundamental that Jackery has missed here, and that is the wireless charging pad. There isn't one. This would have been a great opportunity to add a couple of charging pads. Again, not a deal breaker for me by any means, but still a missed opportunity. Now on the back we have those charging ports that we mentioned earlier, and Jackery have made some big changes to how their portable power stations can be charged. Charging from an AC wall outlet can take as little as 2 hours. I know, right? That's insane. And to the best of my knowledge, that's the fastest a portable power station of this size can charge from a standalone wall outlet. In my personal experience, the unit actually charges in under 2 hours, and that's a real game changer. I'll come back to the wall charging a little later. You've probably noticed the IEC connector here. Remember the included AC charging cable? Well, Jackery has dispensed with the need of an AC transformer. The transformer to convert the AC power from the wall outlet to DC power for the battery is built into the unit. And for a power station of this size, this makes perfect sense. This also means that if you lose the included AC charging cable, you can easily purchase a replacement cable. All you need is an IEC cable, also known as a kettle lead. Just make sure it has a 10 or 13 amp fuse in the UK. The 2000 Pro can also be charged from a 12 volt vehicle, but that could take anything up to 24 hours according to Jackery. However, I was disappointed to learn it cannot be charged from a 24 volt vehicle or 24 volt battery. I'm not quite sure what the logic behind this limit is. In fact, they clearly ask you to refrain from doing this in the manual. I emailed Jackery regarding this limitation, and they couldn't give me a satisfactory explanation for this quite unusual limit. The best they could describe was that there was no 24 volt output circuit in the 2000 Pro. It only has a 12 volt output circuit. But that doesn't make sense to me. The Explorer 500 and the Explorer 1000 don't have a 24 volt output circuit too. Yet they can be charged via 24 volt battery or 24 volt vehicle perfectly fine. So what's stopping the 2000 Pro from following the same route? It just seems bizarre to me. I have a couple of 24 volt lithium iron phosphate batteries in my solar setup, and it would have been great to do a 24 volt DC charge test. Wait a minute. I could try to charge it from my 24 volt lithium iron phosphate battery, couldn't I? What's the worst that could happen? Well, here goes nothing. I didn't try it, and that's because I want to cycle this unit for an entire year and do a long-term follow-up. And quite frankly, the warranty will be void if the unit was to sustain damage. Remember, Jackery warned you against charging from a 24-volt vehicle. Again, I find this odd, and it wouldn't be very difficult to tweak the unit and add this feature on. Next, of course, no power station or solar generator, as they are often referred to, would be complete without the option to charge a unit via solar energy. And Jackery have installed two MPPT charge controllers into this unit, hence the twin DC input ports. What's different here is that Jackery have ditched the Anderson power pole connector and the DC7909 connector, which was found on previous power stations. Instead, they've opted for DC8020 ports that have a larger inner pin, designed to handle extra current. Here you see the difference side by side. Now DC8020 is not a ubiquitous connector, and it seems to be a conscious decision by Jackery to try and keep their customers using their own solar panels. I would have much preferred Anderson power pole connectors. There are plenty for the job at hand, and it makes it easy to adapt your own solar panels to the 2000 Pro. Now Jackery do include DC7909 to DC8020 adapters, which is quite helpful, and at the very least you've got something to start with. But to be honest, they've only included these adapters so you can use Jackery's 100-watt solar Saga panels with the 2000 Pro. To adapt traditional panels or MC4 cables to DC8020, you're going to need multiple adapters, and this is way too complicated. Honestly, just stick with the versatile and some power pole connectors, problem solved.
Exactly.
Now Jackery advocates resorting to green solar energy where possible, and to help you achieve this, they've released the new 200-watt solar Saga panels. I'll put these panels to the test in the UK summer. How long does it take to charge the unit from solar energy? Well, that really depends on the number of panels you hook up to the unit, and of course optimum solar conditions. One thing to bear in mind is that to safely charge the unit from solar energy, you will need to have an equal number of solar panels on each of the input ports, or just use one input. For example, you can't use two panels on one input and one panel on the other. The circuitry installed by Jackery requires the solar panel input to be fully load balanced. For that reason, if you decide to purchase Jackery's own solar Saga panels, you need to purchase 2, 4 or even 6 panels. Or if you want to scale up at a later stage, you need to buy the panels in pairs. And also bear in mind that if you want to use multiple panels, you'll need a pair of series connection adapters. I wish Jackery could just install MC4 connectors on the solar Saga panels. This would make it so much simpler to connect solar panels in series, or use a branch connector for parallel connection if that is what you want to do. Now Jackery detail what you can and can't do thoroughly in the manual, so do take the time to familiarize yourself with a setup that suits you. In terms of charging speeds, each port accepts 700 watts of solar power, or a combined input of 1400 watts.
I am impressed.
It is a lot of solar power, and it's also good to see all the big players increasing the amount of solar energy their units can take in. Jackery have also increased their input range from previous power stations. The 2000 Pro accepts 11 to 60 volts at a maximum of 12 amps. Now moving on with my evaluation, I've cycled and tested this unit for over 2 months. So what have I observed so far? Well, first of all, this unit has performed flawlessly. I've thoroughly enjoyed using it. I've tried to look for flaws in its performance, but as of this video, I have yet to come across one. Suffice to say, it is the best power station that I have used to date. Now that's not to say there is nothing I don't like about the unit, and I'm not saying it's a perfect unit and there's no room for improvement. We'll go over the cons at the end of this video, but I think it's worth mentioning this is an exceptional unit. And I thought I'd just mention there have been no hiccups in terms of performance and endurance. Now I haven't had the opportunity to test the full solar charging capability of this unit. I live at the foot of a hill, and with trees and buildings blocking the sunlight in winter months, it'll be another couple of months before I finally get some decent sunlight. I did do some preliminary testing, but I think this warrants further exploration before I can give my verdict. And therefore I plan to do further tests and reveal my results in a separate video. So stay tuned and keep an eye out for that video. As for charging from grid power, I was able to charge the unit in under 2 hours. Charging starts at around 680 watts, gradually increasing to about 1500 watts in my experience. In total, it takes approximately 2230 watts to charge the unit from 0 to full. And as I said, it takes under 2 hours. Don't be deceived by the 2 hours 23 minutes here. That's because the wattmeter was still detecting a load, and that is the parasitic load of the internal transformer, which is about 5 watts. Now the 2000 Pro is relatively quiet during discharge, but I found charging can be somewhat noisy at times. It's not annoying, but it's definitely noticeable. Even during a DC charge at a mere 89 watts, the fans intermittently turned on. Here I disconnect and then reconnect a DC charge, and you can hear the fan noise. Perhaps this is something Jackery can work on. In terms of usable capacity, I've noticed a respectable 85 to 90% efficiency. I think this will probably be above average and just about shy of the most efficient units in the market. They would be probably about 93% efficient. Your mileage of course may vary based on your equipment and runtime. Bear in mind the energy consumption to power the onboard circuitry, fans and AC inverter. Next, the AC inverter handled everything I threw at it with ease. Even at peak power it ran a kettle with no sign of struggle or drop in voltage. If I was to be critical, perhaps the only niggle is that the AC inverter takes a couple of seconds to switch on. Now despite not being documented, the 2000 Pro has a relay switch. That's right, it has a built-in UPS or an interruptible power supply. The UPS worked as expected, powering a PC and network router with no issues. Now one thing I'd like to highlight here is that the 2000 Pro is the first power station that I have used that does not have an SOC or state of charge indicator problem. That's correct. Every other power station I've used, including Jackery's Explorer 500 and 1000, have some sort of issue when it comes to remaining charge display or SOC indicator. Some use the old school battery bars. Others continue to charge despite the screen suggesting 100% capacity. And every one of them deplete rapidly once they get below 20 or 10% capacity. Not the 2000 Pro. This unit has none of that. It does not run down fast once you get below 10%. It works flawlessly all the way to empty. That's a first on this channel, and it's the second largest power station we have tested here. It works right out of the box as expected. Well done, Jackery. I did notice a battery icon appear when the unit went below 20%, and the icon started to flash at 5%, but it continued to run down as normal. I reiterate, this is a first for me on this channel. All the other power stations I have used, small and large, those featured on this channel and those that haven't, all have rapid rundown at the end of the discharge cycle or have SOC issues. Now Jackery have pre-programmed an eco mode or low power off mode by default on this unit. This means the AC and DC ports will automatically switch off if the load is below the threshold for a specified time. While this is helpful in preserving energy, this could be an obstacle if you're planning to run a small load for an extended period of time. Thankfully there is a way to switch on the low power mode, and this can be achieved by simply long pressing the AC and display buttons. So what do I like about the 2000 Pro? Well, there's quite a lot to admire here, but to name a few of the plus points, let's start with Jackery's orange and grey colour theme. No doubt the modern design was much needed to keep Jackery in the race, but the trademark colour theme just gives it that Jackery flavour we are all accustomed to seeing. The new folding handle was a much needed feature too, and it goes to show that Jackery is listening to its customers when it comes to features that matter most to them. The size and weight are also impressive. At 19.5 kilos, you may think it's not the lightest of units. But show me a 2000 watt-hour portable power station that can be lifted with one hand by the average person. Not a muscle man or a bodybuilder, just your average Joe. Even if you find one, chances are it's heavier and probably awkward to lift with one hand. The 2000 Pro, on the other hand, is much easier to lift than even some 1500 watt-hour portable power stations in the market. The ability to charge with up to 1400 watts of solar power is a step in the right direction. Sure, not all of us will need such speeds, and setting up 6 solar panels can be complex, and we'll come to that in just a moment. But it's a nice feature to have considering the capacity of the unit. The super fast AC charging is also a good upgrade. It would have been nice to have a slow charging option too, but nonetheless the charging time has drastically come down to insane levels. It's so much faster than the older Jackeries that took almost 7 hours to charge. The built-in UPS is a great feature to have in a large power station. If you frequently experience power cuts, a UPS is a must for you and can prove to be a lifesaver. I would however recommend you don't use it indefinitely as a UPS, as this will almost certainly shorten the lifespan of the internal batteries. And to conclude, we finally see Jackery offer a 5-year warranty with this unit. This is something I have been advocating for a long time. If you're going to build large portable power stations, use quality components and back your product. Now, what don't I like about the 2000 Pro and how can Jackery improve it? Well, first of all, I would have liked to see more USB-A ports. Installing only 2 USB-A ports just doesn't add up for me. There's enough room here to add a couple of extra ports, so really there's no excuses. There's also no DC 5521 ports like we see on other power stations. I quite like DC barrel ports. They're extremely handy when you have multiple 12-volt devices or 12-volt loads. The lack of a wireless charging pad on the top base is also a missed opportunity. Granted, not everybody is going to charge their smartphone wirelessly, but it doesn't harm adding it to the unit. The choice of DC input port, the DC 8020 port, is also a bit of a pain. Why not stick to a universal connector such as Anderson Power Pole? Sure, if you purchase a bundle package from Jackery, the type of port may be irrelevant to you. But if you're an experienced user or you're coming from another ecosystem like EcoFlow or Bluetti, you may want to continue using your current solar panels. And trying to adapt to the new barrels makes migration that much more difficult. The DC 8020 ports also present another problem. To use multiple Solar Saga panels, you are going to have to splash out an extra £59 for a series connector. That's £118 for 2 adapters. Now, if you purchase the most premium bundle with 6 Solar Saga panels, you're going to get them as part of the package. But if you go for any other bundle or the bare unit itself, you're going to have to invest in them yourself. And at this price point, I think they should have been included with the unit. Perhaps your budget only allows you to purchase the unit or with just a couple of panels. And at some point in the future, you may decide to purchase more panels. £118 for 2 adapters is going to make you think twice. Next, not being able to charge from a 24-volt battery or vehicle is a real shame. I can't quite get my head around why Jackery haven't resolved this issue. And lastly, the price point. I've said this before and I'll say it again, Jackery power stations are not the most affordable. And I always advise waiting for money off coupons or seasonal sales if you're eyeing one of their products. I would like Jackery to bring the retail price of the 2000 Pro down to something more reasonable. Now, in addition to the cons I've highlighted, here are some further suggestions on how Jackery can improve this unit, and I will be forwarding these suggestions to them after this review goes live. First of all, I'd like Jackery to integrate a bi-directional USB-C port. This can support charging the unit from a USB-C power source. I would also love to see a lithium iron phosphate variant of this unit. It would appeal to lithium iron phosphate enthusiasts, those who aren't quite convinced about buying a power station with lithium NMC cells. And I'm sure they'd be happy to sacrifice portability for lithium iron phosphate cells, so why keep them out of the picture? Now, I understand the target market for the 2000 Pro, and I briefly mentioned this target audience in a previous video and also made compelling arguments for them, such as the fact that they require a portable power station. Again, link to that video is in the description. But I'd like Jackery to be inclusive and make power stations for both communities. And that can be in the form of having a lithium NMC and lithium iron phosphate variant of the same product. I would also like to see add-on batteries to scale this unit up, much like other systems we see in today's market. Expansion units are a convenient way to increase the capacity of your power station. Now, all major manufacturers of power stations have developed some sort of app to control and configure their products, be it via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. These apps make it easy to remote access and troubleshoot on the go. And I'm surprised Jackery hasn't released an app to this date. The 2000 Pro was Jackery's answer to all those who thought they were lagging behind the competition. And if they want to remain in the race or spearhead the next generation of power stations, they're going to have to ensure the basics are met at the very least. Now, a controversial topic, and perhaps one that warrants a separate video in itself. And that is the whole solar charging setup by Jackery. There's a number of things that Jackery could do to make it easier for the novice and experienced user. And I'd start with substituting the DC 8020 ports to something more common, such as Anderson Power Pole or XT90 port. And if you are going to use a proprietary port, include universal adapter cables in the pack, just so that the user can adapt their present setup to work with the 2000 Pro. By example, MC4 to DC 8020 or Anderson Power Pole to DC 8020 cables. Speaking of solar charging, the multiple panel setup is complex and complicated. The whole setup comes with its own set of challenges. I mean, I admire the quality of the 200 watt Solar Saga panels. You can tell Jackery have put a lot of effort into making these panels. But factor in that 6 solar panels have a combined weight of almost 70 kilos. And it's not the most portable setup on paper. If you consider the time to unpack and deploy the panels, prop them up, connect them to the series adapters and then to the 2000 Pro, and then try to find the optimum angle and position of each panel to prevent shadowing. This whole setup can easily take half an hour to accomplish, and we're not factoring the time to reposition the panels to face the sun during the course of the day. And then think of taking down the whole setup at the end of the day, or the daunting task of packing away the entire kit in the event of a sudden rainfall. For a 2-panel setup, this wouldn't be such a task, but for 6 panels, this is definitely cumbersome. The solution to this would be to make larger folding solar panels. Perhaps a couple of 400 or 500 watt solar panels, something similar to the large panels from Bluetti and EcoFlow. The fewer the panels, the easier to set up and take down. Anyways, enough of my outbursts on the solar setup. As mentioned earlier, I did find the 2000 Pro a tad noisy during the charge process, and I hope this is something Jackery can work on. I would also like Jackery to add the option to charge the unit slowly via AC wall plug. The ability to charge fast is great, make no mistake, but for someone like me who leaves the unit to charge overnight when electricity is cheaper for 7 hours, a tariff known as Economy 7 in the UK, the ability to charge up in say 5 hours or at around 400 watts would be helpful. Not to mention charging at a slower rate can help to lengthen the lifespan of the internal batteries. And finally, I would remove the cap on the flashlight. The number of times I have accidentally pressed the light switch without realizing, wasting unnecessary power. I appreciate the power draw is little, but every little helps. Well, that's all I have to say with regards to my honest and impartial review of the 2000 Pro. It has been a somewhat lengthy video, and as I wrap things up, I commend Jackery for taking the initiative to listen to their customers and trying to upgrade this unit to try and meet their portable power needs. There are some drawbacks to this revamped unit, most notably the decision to continue using lithium NMC cells or not manufacturing a lithium iron phosphate alternative. But it's only fair to mention that rivals units like Bluetti's AC200 Max are missing key features like fast charging and UPS relay. And they're also much heavier due to the lithium iron phosphate chemistry cells inside, making them less portable than the 2000 Pro. So when it comes to recommending this unit, I have a few simple questions. And if you can answer yes to them, I would recommend the 2000 Pro for your portable power needs. Do you need a portable power station? A power station that you can take away on your road trip and move around fairly easily. Are you likely to cycle it 2 to 3 times a week or maybe even less? In other words, you won't be cycling the entire capacity of this unit every single day. And can you live with the drawbacks and limitations we have covered in this video? If the answer is yes, I would suggest you consider the 2000 Pro when you're choosing your next power station. Despite the shortcomings and setup complexity, I think the 2000 Pro has great potential. It can prove beneficial as an emergency backup power supply for those who live in areas that experience power cuts. It's also appealing to van lifers and RVers, those who require an all-in-one off-grid power solution that is portable and powerful enough to meet their needs. Remember, the 2000 Pro has worked flawlessly. It's a solid unit. It's also outperformed all the other power stations I've had the opportunity to use and evaluate on this channel. Now that isn't to say there isn't a better power station out there. It's just the best that I've used to date. As you're probably aware, I've emailed a host of manufacturers to compare their units, but getting a response from majority of them is another subject altogether, something I've experimented with in the past. A link to that video is in the description. And having learned a lesson from the AllPowers Monster X, I do not personally recommend a power station that I haven't first tested myself.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Good plan. Good talk, all right?
Now, I would love to see what Jackery could achieve with lithium iron phosphate cells, but for portability and use on the road with a 2 kW capacity and 2.2 kW inverter, the 2000 Pro's performance as a power station is simply amazing. Throw in an interactive screen with app control and tidy up the complex solar setup issues, and you have an incredible all-in-one bundle that will appeal to a wider audience. I'll provide a link to the 2000 Pro on Jackery's website in the description. Be sure to select the appropriate store according to your geographical location. And as I mentioned in earlier videos, bookmark the page and take advantage of Jackery's seasonal sales and money off coupons. I have to admit the prices are premium, and I guess you pay for the excellent support Jackery provides. But if you can wait, I certainly recommend you cash in when Jackery have discounts to offer. It's much better value for money. Also sign up to their promotions and newsletters. Jackery regularly offer 15% or 30% discount codes and hold prize giveaways and competitions, so you don't want to miss out on them. Finally, at CES 2023, we got a glimpse of the Jackery 3000 Pro. There was also some wind turbines and other concepts on display. I'm really looking forward to these inventions. The future looks bright for Jackery, so long as they continue to listen to their customers and also keep up with the rest of the pack. Right guys, as always, thanks for watching, stay safe, stay green, and I'll catch you in the next one.